Welcome back to the party, friends and followers of RMShoots. Josh and I have just returned from West Virginia, where we participated in a shooting competition known as Woodland Brutality.
2025.
2025, yes. This is a match hosted by InRange TV. This was the first time that we've ever done anything on this magnitude, and we jumped into it with basically a bare bones setup, not a gamer setup, really not even our best possible setup with what we own.
Yeah.
Probably just what we consider to be the most fun.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're watching this because you're an InRange fan, or you're a fan of just brutality matches or just shooting in general,
maybe even us.
Well, that would be the part B, because the first thing I was going to say is thanks for stumbling on us, but then part B, if you actually like us, thanks for sticking with it, because we try really hard to entertain you.
As you can tell from this introduction.
Yeah.
To the wire, go forward.
All right, so it is a good morning here in Echo Valley. This is our first day of shooting. We're simulating Trooper Division by walking from the parking lot to the stage. People are already here shooting and everything, so it's kind of a great atmosphere. It's a beautiful place out here. And what do you think? What is your strategy going to be?
The strategy is going to be to shoot fast, hit often.
That is also my strategy. So we just completed stage 2, which is the first stage of our day. I was not ready for any kind of dynamic targets. Neither of us are, in fairness, but I really got hosed by them. Or I guess I shouldn't blame the targets, I should blame myself, because we don't have any experience with that kind of stuff, because it's expensive, and no matches that are in our area really do this kind of thing, or at least none that we've been to.
None that we're aware of, yeah.
Steel Challenge is very not this.
Very static.
Yes, but I had pretty good opening with the rifle at the distance, which I think, was it 200?
I actually don't know. I'm going to assume it's 100, only because I had to hold a little high.
But you still, you kind of, if I'm remembering it correctly, I think you kind of started missing, and then you pretty much, I think you did back-to-back hits once you got it figured out.
If not, I might have missed one in between, but
yeah.
It was a lot quicker after realizing I was hitting low. I was able to pull it in fairly easily.
And it was the same thing for me. I think I missed a couple times, and then it's just pretty good, even just with the with the red dots. It's the rifle, the opening rifle target is almost just to kick the stage off. It almost seems like.
I will say that it surprised me to jump ahead a little bit. The VTAC barricade, there was a couple things that I was actually not prepared for. One, just actually hitting the angles. I found the rifle tucked into my arm a little more in trying to line everything up, not being used to it. And then two, having to actually push the gun into the barricade. There was one time where I fired and it actually slipped out of the barricade, so I was like, oops.
And it was scary, if you weren't in control of it and you were a dummy, you would have plugged one out and then boom.
Right, yeah,
so
anything could have happened.
If you mess something up, the main thing that all the ROs and everybody around here says is that if you mess something up, mess it up safely, all the fundamentals, if you've got those down, trigger discipline and all that kind of stuff, you'll be fine. But I never made it to the VTAC because upon crawling through the tube, which was pretty fun for as simple as it is, it's just a nice little way to continue down the stage instead of just running. And I slung my rifle and everything, very, very slick. I felt good about my pace. But then Y-Swinger activator didn't take too much for me to hit because it's 10-inch.
Yeah.
I think they're 10-inch targets, and that's I don't know.
It took 2 or 3 for me. I think it really is. I think the psychology of the dynamic targets, even before they start moving, is in your head, especially when it's your first time shooting it ever.
Yes.
So
I went back and forth between kind of doing good, locking in for a couple hits, and then just completely dropping the ball. I actually felt more locked out than I ever felt locked in. There was a Y-Swinger, and the way it worked was Y-Swinger, then popper, then Y-Swinger, then popper again. Then you move to the Texas Star, which was the most intimidating part.
Yeah.
But you clear the top one, and then you
shoot the top one.
Shoot the top one, definitely.
Definitely good advice.
And then you just alternate between the popper back and forth. So by the end of it, the not really. I don't feel shame or embarrassment or anything. I actually feel really good. I was trying to, like, every time that I actually locked in, it almost felt like I'm getting it, but then it just kept throwing me for a loop, right? Like the speed of it swinging and all that kind of stuff. But I had one popper left and then 2 plates on the star left, which is a little disappointing. I was hoping I would get at least more through it than that. I was already anticipating that stage was going to be rough because of all the dynamic targets and everything. But I never made it to the barrel triangle, like fast kind of thing, which you went through really well. Because it's almost, again, like almost like a formality to space out the VTEC.
Almost, but then when you do miss and it is your last magazine, that's how you manage not to finish.
Which is what happened to you.
Correct.
Like I said, you ran out of ammo on the dynamic targets, and then you only realized it when you literally ran out.
Yeah.
And that's the sucky part.
I didn't realize my losses,
right,
as they say.
But instead of just like leaving targets behind and racking up penalties, we tried to push through it, and then you made it through all the hard parts, and then the easy part you ran out of ammo, which is a little sucky, but...
Yeah, that's what it is. Either bring more mags or shoot slower and miss less.
Yeah, exactly. But then when you made it to the VTEC, and then you already kind of talked about it, but I was really hyped to try that out. You were making pretty damn good hits. It's just stability seemed to be the only thing that I observed that was tripping you up.
Yeah, and it's just unfamiliarity with the motion. I know what I want the rifle to do, I know where I want the dot to be, but then just making sure that I'm putting the awkward meat puppet behind it in the right place. I actually think it was the slanted ones, if I had to say.
Okay.
Just because you're doing everything at a slight angle, and it's one of those things that sounds like it doesn't make a difference. You're like, well, it's the same thing but here, but then your corrections and all your little muscle movements are slightly different, which means you're losing the muscle memory you have to do it instinctually, and you're having to think, which slows you down.
But all in all, it was fun, and I'm not letting it bother me. If I screw up on all the pistol stuff today, don't DQ. That's the only thing to avoid. Everything else is just...
That's our number one goal.
Yes.
Par as much as you want. That's just going to be part of the game. It's
Correct.
our first time.
Yeah.
So...
We've jumped straight into it, and we're not the only ones that have jumped straight into it.
Yeah.
So you gotta peel the Band-Aid off eventually. It helps if you have other experience with different matches first. So the next stage is the trench stage, which is also pistol only besides the staged shotgun, which, you know, that should be pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So we'll catch up with you then. All right, so we're back. We just finished our second stage, which was the trench stage.
Yep.
There's a staged shotgun at the very beginning. You do 2 steel hits of that, and then it's all pistol. There is a long, tunnelless, full big IPSC target, steel target, that's down through trees downhill. And the trick of it is it's like a hallway effect to the point where it just kind of seems like it's stretching, and it's hard to gauge how far it is. And it's especially hard to gauge where you're missing.
Yes.
Because there's no backstop behind it. The backstop is the natural hillside. So when you miss, you kind of have to, unless you get lucky and you nick a tree. I struggled a little bit, and that was the only thing that was psyching me out. But I cleared that pretty good with maybe like 50% hit factor, and then moved on. There's 4 knockdowns on posts. They're also really close, so it's really fast and really fun. I think you cleared those almost perfectly, I think.
Close, if not there, I think.
From there, you move to the 2 spinners.
Yes.
You don't have to spin both of them, thankfully. It's optional for a bonus, but you just have to make 8 hits total, top, bottom, bottom, top, bottom, bottom. And then you can move on, which I did, because the debate about the bonus is kind of like, do I spend time trying? And if you're not real familiar with spinners, as I already said, we're not at all.
Yeah.
So neither of us really went for it. But then you clear those 2 spinners. Then there's another spinner, which is like really tight through the port.
Which is where I ran out of ammo.
And that was the end of your thing. So since that's where you leave off, what was your experience with everything up to that point?
I basically just totally lost it on the tunnel effect, the hallway of the red target, the first red target. I might have even hesitated a slight bit on the shotgun, but it's still so quick to do.
Yes.
But the red target is where I'm missing, and you're trying to just, okay, reset, hold side alignment, put it on the target. Miss. Okay, why did I miss? Maybe try it again. And okay, well, hold a little low, hold a little high. People are trying to make calls, like you said, but nobody's really sure where the bullets are going. You know, I hit it once, and okay, well, now I can quickly try to recreate that. Okay, that didn't work. So it very much, it felt chaotic, and I didn't really feel like it made me feel like I didn't know what I was doing.
Like I said in my flunk experience, you feel locked out.
Yep.
Basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so even though I managed to eventually get there and move on, between ammo and my mental game, it was over, really.
But then the knockdowns you did really well, and then you were doing pretty good on the spinners as well.
Yeah.
The first couple spinners was pretty easy, and then it was the second one just because of the lack of ammo.
Numbers game.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. I actually was pretty pleased with my shooting on all the spinners, but when you get to the second spinner, the second position of the second spinner, it's at an angle now, so it's not even swinging back and forth. It's swinging at like a completely different kind of diagonal. So it's hard to really judge it, but it's actually refreshing that we got to experience them then in that way, to where it's not a mandatory spin, because now it's kind of like, okay, we've inoculated ourselves a little bit to the concept. And then after that, it's another long red target, big target. But this one was a little less intimidating because it was not in a tunnel of trees. It was just kind of in the woods, basically. So I did pretty good on that. And the knockdowns were just so fast and so exciting, really. So going through the trench was great. There wasn't a lot of mud in the bottom of it. It wasn't really uneven. Yeah. It has the illusion of it, but really those stones are all settled and they're pretty good. So there's no real tripping problems unless you're pushing yourself too fast.
Yeah.
And that's it. You don't have to get in or out of the trench on the clock. So there's none of that kind of weird stuff. Very exciting. So we've kind of switched our problems here from 1 to 2. From here on out, I think for the rest of our day today, it's pretty much nothing but rifle, from my understanding.
I think so.
Which is going to be a good chance to test out our holds with the dots at long range, because there are some intimidating ranges out there, which we have a little bit of experience with, but not on the clock doing 400s. Yeah. Well, the 400 I think is a bonus.
I 350, so, but 350 is
still pretty
still
good.
in that range.
Yeah, but yeah, the trench was great, and I think, like I said, hopefully, even though like you didn't complete it, it was still like the psych out. Like I didn't let my psych out get to me too much. It's just like I know I'm in it, and I'm just accepting of it, and I'm trying, but I'm not trying to beat myself too much.
That's the trick, is you have to accept that you're there and you're doing it, and that's what you're doing, but not be down about it. You can't let it drag you down. You just have to accept, I'm psyched out, but I'm on the clock, so I just have to keep going.
Right.
And that's the game.
Stage 2, pretty fun.
Very cool.
So now we're going to move on to the Pathfinder or weapons guy, I think.
I believe so. Whatever stage 4 actually is, you'll find out later.
Yes, you will. So, we just finished our third stage, which was the Pathfinder or heavy weapons.
Yes.
So, right off the rip, there's a choice that the shooter has to either go under tripwires or to carry a big, heavy.
I believe
tube.
80 pounds was
80
the
pounds.
stated number.
Yes, and it's supposed to be like a rocket, basically. You make your choice, and then basically the whole stage is just shooting further into the woods, kneeling at every position.
Well,
and then
walking further into the woods and shooting closer. The target is static.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You progress into the woods. Every position is kneeling, which caught up to almost everybody that we talked to. It kind of wears you out a little quicker than you anticipate. Yeah. But besides all that, it's pretty straightforward. I think every single person in our squad went under the tripwires. Nobody carried the tube. Yeah. There was somebody in our squad that carried the tube the day before, and he decided to do the tripwires just to see what that was like. Yeah. But the trick is if it rolls away from you or you throw it, it has to always be within arm's reach, or you get a 60-second procedural. Yeah, and I believe he said that he just slung it. Yeah, actually there was actually 2 people did it that are in our squad yesterday, because he has the marks on his arm to prove it. Yeah. From the rope. It's a really good stage, very simple, basic. Being the Pathfinder, going under the tripwires is kind of fun, because it's an opportunity to like just get and crawl and do like, real world physicality. Yeah. There was no penalty for touching the tripwires. In fact, most people moved them out of the way and kind of scurried under them. I just dropped down and did an army crawl through it. And it was really fun. The marksmanship wasn't challenging. It's a pretty big target. And I think at most it was 100 yards away, maybe 150. Yeah, 100, 150 something. It was a decent distance, but not so much that you couldn't hit it. It really was more of, to the point that they had a little orange cone next to it. It was just really identifying that there is a target there. You see how it was in front of a tree, a large tree, yes, which was the same color at distance as the target. So you have to trust that the target's there. Just shoot carefully, and you'll hit it. Yeah. So for the magnified guys, it was easier to see it, but just running red dots. Yeah. Iron sights would be pretty challenging as well, obviously. Yeah, and that really was the most difficulty, because you were able to brace off of the trees that were always there, especially for us tripwire guys, and so, you know what to do. You get stable, you find the target, you shoot it. Right.
collect yourself, shoot it again, because you do need 2. So try to double tap it if you can. If not, okay, you're a little slower.
Yeah.
But otherwise, fairly straightforward. It's just the like you said, the physicality of crawling and using muscles that you don't normally use. Because even squats is not the same thing as the twisting and pulling yourself up.
Some trees kind of lent themselves to be braced against more than others, and there was roots to be to factor in. So they painted the roots so you wouldn't like just kill your knee on it. I'm assuming is why they did that.
Yeah, probably.
They
might have had some tripping.
The RO mentioned that. Observed that the roots are painted, but didn't say why. So we were supposed to fill in the blanks, but it's pretty obvious. It's for tripping and for banging your knee and stuff. Fairly exhausting. Like, I mean, not really exhausting, but physical enough to get you actually like,
right.
Because the trench stage like wasn't physical besides just the experience of moving through a trench. It wasn't hard to get through it. It wasn't mud.
Yeah.
If it was mud, it would be a different story. The first couple stages of the day were not physical so much as they were marksmanship, and it's pistol marksmanship too. And this was all rifle. So you ended at the end, the last stump rather, and then cleared the rifle, and that was it. With the breaks we've had today and the fact that the first couple stages didn't really warm us up physically, it hit us kind of like, you know. But then I had a malfunction, and I'm not sure exactly what it was. I don't remember. I don't reckon the video was close enough to really see.
We'll find out. I don't believe so. I was able to see that something happened, but as far as like identifying it, I don't think so.
Right. It was just, the gun did not go off when I pulled the trigger, and I don't know if I heard the hammer drop or not. The fact that it didn't go off, maybe it was a dud, but it stripped it. Unfortunately got the RO in the neck with the full round, but he's fine, so he says. And got it running again to make those last couple hits, which by the time you're at the end, it does feel really close now, you know. But since you're exhausted, now you have to contend with that. The tripwires are very high. It seems like you're gonna snag on stuff. There was a couple people, including you, well, you didn't really snag.
So interestingly enough, that is a good thing, I totally forgot. I snagged my ear pro off my head coming back up.
Okay, there you go.
That's what it is. And so I ripped my ear pro off, so then I had to awkwardly maintain the 180 with the full rifle like this, holding the ear pro and trying to keep moving till I could get to the next position and balance the rifle, put the ears back on, and stay safe the whole time.
You very much locked it down. Like, you did a really, really good job of just like focusing in, because the RO obviously says, I need the ear pro to be back on.
Yeah.
You just locked it in and then just like did what you needed to do. You didn't do anything stupid with the gun. So that's, again, even mistakes here are exercises in damage control, basically. Besides that, and my little gun malfunction, thankfully at the end, and thankfully nothing that I couldn't just resolve without thinking about it, stage 3 is great. Stage 4.
Here we come.
All right, so today is the next morning. We shot stage 5 and then it was a bit late, and we ended up just hanging out with some really awesome people and shooting the shit and stuff, getting to know everybody. Everybody on the squad opened up. It was a lot of fun. And by the time we realized that, it was pretty late. We said we'd film it when we got back to the hotel. Yeah. But then inevitably when we got back to the hotel, there was even more cool people from the match that were there. So we were out until pretty late just having fun. So, but the good thing is that stage 5 is still pretty fresh in our minds. So why don't you take the floor, put you on the spot because you demolished stage 5.
Yeah, it was one of those things that, like, you'll see in the video, I almost can't take credit for. Like, it just, everything came together in a way that worked. You know, we had done some long-range training just a little bit at home before we came here, and I guess it was just enough to give me the intuition with the red dot that I needed. And when I landed the first ostensibly 400-yard shot, that we'll have to get an exact number, but I think it was around 505, 510.
It's a quick summary, but there's 5 positions of varying, you know, things, and then there's a target that's allegedly 200, and then allegedly 300, then allegedly 350, and then there's a bonus at allegedly 400.
Yes.
Well, we lazed the bonus, which is more like 509.
Yeah.
So 500 yards, and then every other target was a bit off too. I'm not sure how deliberate of a choice that was. I don't know if it's a mind game or something, but
I'm assuming it was purely an approximation, but if it was a mind game, then it was a pretty successful one to push people off 100 yards.
We had a squad mate that brought a laser rangefinder, so we cut through that. But so yeah, good distances, really simple. The shooting positions weren't really bad, but good shooting distances. the sweet spot. You can clear the stage pretty well on the 3, but then the bonus is quite a challenge. So that brings it back to what you were saying.
And they were at differing heights too. I guess it's another thing. And people will see it in the video, but you know, it's you start at the lowest point, but in an awkward, almost kind of sitting sort of situation. But luckily you get to choose that or the rooftop, which one you want to start at and work the opposite direction. And then from there it's like lower, higher, higher, and then you go flat or sitting. And so it was fairly straightforward. It was a fairly high round count for the distance too, between just the number, because you had 3, so 6 or 7 with the bonus at each position, 5 positions. So that's 30 or 35, if I can math. That's on camera, so. And then obviously with missing and ranging in between, like it actually was a pretty high round count stage.
I had like 3 reloads.
Yeah.
And you had like 2, I think.
No, it was 3 or 4 magazines that I used, so I think 3 reloads, yeah.
Which is cool, because like putting a lot in just a few minutes of time, like long range shooting, rapid long range shooting is like a pretty fun experience overall. But yeah, you just really just breezed through it. I think you got 3 bonuses?
3, yeah. I missed 1, and I think there was a call, and I might have been able to do it, but I was trying to keep the discipline of like, just take your 1 shot at it, and it's a 15-second bonus, so in theory you have 15 seconds, but on the clock with the adrenaline running, like I didn't want to play the game of, has it been 15 seconds or 2 minutes?
Whoa! And that's what I did too. I wanted to take 1 at each bonus, and I wish I didn't, because long story short, I actually ran it surprisingly smooth compared to like what I was kind of thinking. There was a squad mate that had a very short AK as well, and he did a really good job. He didn't finish, but neither did I. I made it to the roof and parred out. So this close, but maybe if I didn't try for those bonuses, I would have got those last 2 targets. Yeah, besides that, it's just pure marksmanship and stuff. Really fun stage for as simple as it is. And then we're starting today in approximately 4 minutes. Another fun stage that I can't remember. Oh, this is the tires and the ammo box. Yeah. So we'll be back after that. So we gotta go.
Don't rush too hard.
There you go.